The slap was thunder, open palm, deliberate, calculated. It cracked through the silence like a gunshot. Her hand hung in the air a second longer than it should have, as if she wanted the world to see it, remember it, and they did. Forks stopped clinking, conversations died, wine paused mid-sip. A room full of her friends, her family, and curated guests at her birthday dinner, all frozen, watching me, red-cheeked, humiliated, exposed under a soft chandelier glow. Elaine didn't flinch. She stood there like a goddess dispensing wrath, jaw clenched, eyes daring me to react. I couldn't. Not because I lacked the will, but because I suddenly realized that this wasn't just anger, it was theater. So I straightened my jacket, lifted my chin, and walked out. No suitcase, no speech, no goodbye. I vanished, like smoke into the cold night air. 5 years ago, I thought I had found her. Elaine, sharp, captivating, ambitious, the kind of woman who could make a room lean in when she laughed. I loved her like a man loves salvation. She said I was her anchor, her safe harbor. We built dreams together. Her fashion boutique was our shared future. I poured my inheritance into it, every penny. She painted it as our empire. We never signed a prenup. I believed in love, in trust. What a fool I was. The slap wasn't about rage, it was about optics. It was her exit strategy, one that painted her as the victim and me as the villain. By the time I reached the rental car that night, I was already the villain in the stories she'd start whispering. He cheated. He drained her savings. He hit her. Lies. All of them. But lies. Lies wear designer shoes. Lies sip wine with friends. Lies cry convincingly at brunch. That night, I slept in a cold leather seat, engine humming, dignity shattered. But by morning, something inside me had changed. I was no longer broken. I was awake. I wired what little was left in our joint account into an offshore shell I'd formed a year prior. Just a precaution. A ghost company under a ghost name. Then I vanished, changed my name, erased my trail. And I didn't crumble. I sharpened. Pain, when you feed it just right, becomes discipline. Year 1. I scrubbed floors in empty office buildings, wiped counters in diners, cities blurred, Chicago, Atlanta, Seattle. I slept in motels. I read law books from library basements, learned forensic accounting from online forums at 3 a.m. Year 2. I used my alias, Luca Brandt, to acquire a small cybersecurity firm. Silent partnerships followed. Startups, failing businesses, debt flips. Year 3. I had contacts, bartenders who overheard secrets, analysts who sold whispers. I became a shadow in boardrooms, a name on wire transfers. By year 5, I was the silent investor behind multiple real estate portfolios. I didn't flash wealth, I moved it, quietly, and then the invitation arrived. Embossed gold script, Private Wealth Society Elite Retreat, Fairfield Estate, back in my hometown. Of course, I knew Elaine would be there. That was her habitat. Designer dresses, champagne toasts, people with masks more expensive than their clothes. I RSVP'd immediately. That same night, my phone buzzed. News alert. Elaine Beaumont, local fashion icon, facing bankruptcy and fraud investigation. Boutique chain shuttered, assets frozen. Driver picked me up from the airport. He glanced back and said, "Rough week for Mrs. Beaumont, huh?" I smiled. Couldn't have happened to a nicer person. She didn't recognize me right away. The beard, the tailored Italian suit, the confidence, the absence of pain. But when our eyes met across the banquet table, her face lost all color. Gone was the poised fashion queen. Now she was just a woman staring at a ghost she thought she'd buried. Fairfield, the host tycoon, raised his glass. To Luca Brandt, tech genius, serial investor, the man who bought half of Tay's Group in a single weekend. What he didn't say? Tay's Group owned the parent company of Elaine's boutique chain. 2 years ago, I made sure of that. She built an empire. I bought it from under her nose. After dinner, she followed me into a hallway, dim, cold, intimate. Her voice cracked like ice. You did this. I looked her in the eye, calm, patient. You destroyed me first, Elaine, she scoffed. You did that to yourself. I leaned in, whispering, "No, you did that. I just gave you the rope." I handed her a folder, documents, court records, tax trails, forensic audits, all legal, all damning, all signed by her. Her hands trembled. "Why? We could have fixed it." I cut her off. You didn't want to fix us. You wanted a show. You slapped me in front of your world to bury me. Well, congratulations. You created a ghost. One who waited, one who planned. 2 days later, the media storm hit. Fraud, embezzlement, money laundering. Her name was everywhere for all the wrong reasons. Fashion friends? Gone. Sponsors? Gone. Reputation? Erased. The socialite became a scandal, and the woman who once slapped me into silence now watched her world collapse with no one left to clap for her. That night, I walked through my hometown. Same streets, same sky, different man. There were no cheers, no applause, just peace. I still remember the slap, not the pain, just the silence afterward. But now it reminds me of the man I became. Because revenge isn't loud. It doesn't shout. It signs contracts in silence. It smiles across a banquet table. It waits 5 years to say, checkmate. If you've ever been burned, betrayed, or erased, remember this. Silence is power. Patience is strategy. And revenge? It's best served in a tailored suit. Hit that subscribe button for more true stories of comeback, closure, and quiet victory.